Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mack. We are back, and there's a ton of Q to do, so I'm going to get started on them right away. What I don't have is the Rona. 40:10, 37 minutes after the hour of 2, we see this picture here with the flags out once again. The other day, it was suggesting General Flynn as our 3-star general. Now we are talking about this White House link right here. Proclamation on Law Day, USA 2020. This was issued on April 29th, 2020. I will let you read the whole thing. I did want to highlight that part right there. This year also marks both the 150th anniversary of the ratification of the 15th Amendment, which prohibited denial of the right to vote based on race, color, or previous condition of servitude, and the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment, which prohibited denial of the right to vote based on sex. Okay, so I guess May 1st is a pretty special day. Well, Q is turning our attention to this part right here. Now, therefore, I, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America, in accordance with Public Law 87-20, as amended, do hereby proclaim May 1st, 2020 as Law Day USA. I urge all Americans, including government officials, to observe this day by reflecting upon the importance of the rule of law in our nation and displaying the flag of the United States in support of this national observance. And I especially urge the legal profession, the press, and the radio, television, and media industries to promote and to participate in the observance of this day. Nice! Well, this is the first that I'm hearing about it here because I didn't hear about it on any news station. So I wonder if the press is actually going to do this. Maybe we should hug our lawyers today. Maybe it's like a hug a lawyer day, right? Maybe we could do that. I don't know. I don't see anybody practicing this. Maybe it's just us. Maybe we got to start it. Maybe I should have baked a cake. I don't know. Maybe I should have baked a cake. That would have been a great idea. Anyway, it's Law Day. Happy Law Day. It's also May 1st. It's May Day. So sometimes things happen on those days. I'm not saying it will, but it's Law Day. So if something does happen, it happens on Law Day. Post 4011, 57 minutes after the hour 2, we get a Twitter status to Benjamin Weingarten, who posts this. Per new Flynn document dump, one wonders who was Crossfire Typhoon. Well, this appears to be referring to George Papadopoulos, right? We were just talking about this yesterday, and the insertion of spies into the Trump campaign, guys like Stephen Halper. They were essentially trying to entrap George Papadopoulos, and it didn't work out so well. And now we're starting to see all these document dumps in regard to that. George Papadopoulos has been teasing us about that for a while, and now it is out. Q says Crossfire Hurricane, Crossfire Typhoon, Crosswind, classified 1 through 99, unreleased, redacted. So there's that classified 1 through 99 again. It looks like more doxes and doxes are coming out. You didn't think the statement by POTUS regarding calm before the storm was just random, did you? Transparency brings accountability. That's right, POTUS was talking about this must be the calm before the storm. I think we all know about that, right? So let's take a look at the communication here. This was sent from Peter Strzok to EW Priestap, and it looks like it was CC to Dina M. Corsi. Oddly enough, she was an FBI agent, and she was suspected of withholding leads from the FBI criminal investigation. They were looking into the USS Cole bombing, and there was a meeting between two of the suspects, Al-Madar and Al-Hazmi, and they were meeting in Malaysia, and evidently she got in the way of that, or at least that's what they were suspecting. So she has been involved since 9/11. Just saying. Anyway, we have this mention of Crossfire Typhoon, and of course all of that is redacted. Then we have this reference to Crossfire Razor, who we've recently found out is referencing General Flynn. So let's read that. Crossfire Razor, provide a defense briefing to him about Crosswind, and then redacted. Beyond that, I'm not certain. I think my preference would be to provide him a defensive briefing about redacted, put him on notice, and see what he does with that. If that's not possible, then continue to monitor. We need to discuss what happens if DOJ directs us or directly tells us. POTUS or anyone else about the specifically, I don't really know what That's a WRT, what we do directly with him. I think it will be very difficult not to do some sort of overstep with him, a defensive briefing or interview under light defensive briefing pretext, unless White House specifically directs us not to. And then we have Crosswind there. That is all redacted. And then Crossfire Typhoon, more redacted. So who is Crosswind? Well, we don't know just yet, but George Papadopoulos teased this. I think I know who Crosswind is. It's not Carter Page. Well, I have to admit that would have been the first person I would have thought of, and I wouldn't be surprised if many of you did too. So if it's not Carter Page, maybe we're going further back. After all, this is being referenced in the Crossfire Razor section, meaning they were telling Flynn about this. So is it possible that Crosswind could be referring to Ted Cruz? Remember, he wasn't part of those FISA warrants, but the spying was going on before these 4 FISA warrants. These FISA warrants were to make everything look legal, but the fact of the matter is that the spying had been going on long before that. All the spying, all the unmasking, all that stuff's been going on for years, and it looks like Ted Cruz was a victim of this. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if, as all of this starts to drip out, we're going to find out that maybe even half of Congress was spied on. But we do know that this started with Ted Cruz, and he was originally perceived to be the political opposition. This was before Trump was even in the picture. So could that be the reveal right there? That would be a pretty big one, because what it shows is that the spying basically happened before Trump was in the picture. And for people who are either Democrats or Trump haters, this will change the narrative quite a bit, because they're going to realize that this could have been anyone. So who is Crosswind? Maybe it's Eric Swalwell. Nah, you tell me. Post 4012, 14 minutes after the hour of 3, we get this meme right here with an upside down American flag. Kind of disrespectful. American coup d'etat. And there are some of your favorite deep state knuckleheads right there, all in trading card form. Collect them all. When this is finished, a much bigger graphic will be needed. Much bigger! Biggest political scandal in American history. Q. I think you get the idea. It's not just going to be these knuckleheads right here. It's going to be a ton. And we've already had a bunch of arrests already. Just not a bunch of names that we really like to see. But we'd sure like to see some of these. I'd like to see this one right here. This one right here. How about this one right here? This one right here. You get the idea. Oh, this one right here. Let's move on. Post 4013, 26 minutes after the hour of 3. Someone has taken the liberty of fixing Nancy Pants Pelosi's tweet. Let's read it with the fixes on it. I applaud the courage of Tara Reid to come forward to share her story. As we continue to learn more about these allegations against Joe Biden, we must ensure that Reid's rights to justice and privacy are respected. Hashtag choose someone else. Q says, used as a political tool to attack the other side, weaponized. Where are the pink hats? Yeah, where's all the front holes? Where you at, front holes? Huh? Where my front holes at? When you are awake, you are able to see clearly. And we're going to talk a little bit more. We got a little montage of Nancy Pants in just a second. So we'll talk about that in just a second. For now, let's move on. Post 4014, 50 minutes after the hour of 3, we get a Washington Examiner link. Here is the headline right here from April 2nd. Democratic National Convention pushed back a month to mid-August. Democrats have moved their convention to start August 17th. Oh no, as the coronavirus pandemic threatens to plague the country until the summer. I'd like to take this opportunity to tell you, I don't have the Rona. 2020 Democratic National Convention was originally scheduled to take place in Milwaukee, which, by the way, I think is a highly underrated city. From July 13th through the 16th. Still set to be held in Wisconsin, the new August date falls 1 week before the Republican National Convention, which will be hosted in Charlotte, North Carolina from August 24th to the 27th. How convenient. Q says, why are they pushing back the Democratic Convention? COVID-19 concern? Which I don't have, by the way, or strategic for last minute change. Change of batter coming? Well, I think we all know that Joe is on his last legs, right? And this Tara Reid situation is most certainly not going to help. Keep in mind that she was a staffer of his, meaning that she was likely a Democrat, right? So this doesn't really help their narrative. But at the same time, this was from 1993, so it almost looks like a play out of their playbook. Not saying that Republicans don't play the same kind of political dirty play, because let's face it, all politicians do. But I find it very, very interesting. It looks like it's their playbook. Now, Joe Biden said he was going to have a female candidate, and we don't necessarily know who that is. Is it going to be Hillary Clinton? Is it going to be Michelle Obama? Is it going to be Stacey in Pursuit of Tooth Abrams? I don't know. I don't know yet. But Q says, why was she saved from officially announcing? Why was she reserved for a last minute change? Because it's a lot easier. It avoids a lot of scrutiny. Not to mention, both of these people are going to avoid a lot of debate time, which we know Trump would absolutely own. How do you attempt to sneak one in? Just like this. How do you attempt to ensure victory? So if you keep us at home, get us mailing in our votes, then you can say whatever you want. Say that so-and-so won the popular vote. You can avoid all the debates, and you can fix a few votes along the way. Adopt national vote by mail. How do you convince American it was legitimate? We got an extra N there. How do you convince America it was legitimate? What's that N for? Release fake polls indicating favorable leads in swing states. How do you harm opponents' accomplishments regarding the economy, the unemployment? Well, you keep it going, right? The longer that the country stays closed, the worse it looks on Trump, no matter what. How do you terminate opponents' highly effective rallies? Well, you take them away. Keep everybody at home. How do you shelter Democrat lead candidates from embarrassing debates and or rallies? How do you shelter Democrat corruption regarding FISA, Russia, Flynn, etc. from reaching the mainstream? Yeah, they are desperately holding on to the Rona scare, right? And it looks like Republicans are trying to move, or at least people who are trying to dig this stuff up are trying to move this thing forward regardless. And even President Trump says this Rona is going away. The Rona is leaving the building. How do you extend the trade negotiation deadline with China? So I think you get the idea, right? How do you limit, test constitutional rights of people? How do you provide cover for state governors to adopt new voter laws? How do you effectively control the population? How do you expand big tech overreach regarding tracing privacy issues? How do you fix taxpayer bailout, the long broken economies of California and New York when you get federal funding, right? During a panic, during a pandemic. How do you enrich select people's companies by promoting a solution to a global crisis? How do you keep people living in fear and isolation in order to accept all of the above? Well, you keep them at home, right? You keep them at home. Define insurgency. And we talked about this yesterday, right? How do you accomplish all of the above? You keep people home so they feel powerless. You keep their immune system down so they don't feel well. And you take away all their rights, and you use all the different state governors to do it, because what they're trying to do is use their playbook against us by saying, well, isn't this what Republicans want to do? Give power to the states? I think you see what's going on, right? They're using our playbook against us. However, we're using their playbook against them. So I guess we're using each other's playbook, which makes us even. Let's move on. Post 4015, 56 minutes after the hour at 3, we get this from Q Research Notables. YouTube CEO Susan doesn't get any cake around here. Wojcicki says anything that goes against the World Health Organization is a violation of YouTube policies. All content that isn't medically substantiated, such as advising people take vitamin C, which is pretty medically substantiated, will be removed by the platform. And I think many of you guys are aware of this already. I've been battling her for years. Susan Wojcicki has already stated that anything that goes against the WHO is going to be blocked and banned, which I think would be funny if we all flooded the entire platform with nothing but videos about her. That way, when she bans them, she's literally banning herself. Just saying. This is a letter from Adam Schiff, and I know it's a bit blurry. I'm just going to read a bit from the second paragraph, which basically explains the gist of the situation. As we face this public health crisis, Americans want and need to receive the best information possible so that they can keep themselves, their families, and their communities healthy. I commend you for steps you have already taken to highlight information from official health sources and to remove or limit content that promotes harmful medicinal misinformation. And so this is to Sundar Pichai, who is from Alphabet, and Sue Woe, of course, who is from YouTube, which is part of Google, which is part of Alphabet. You get the idea. Anyway, this is the letter from Adam Schiff, and then here is his tweet about it. Misinformation is dangerous, says the guy who gave us a whole heaping mess of information and sat on the Gang of 8. Misinformation about public health is deadly. I sent a letter to the CEOs of Google and YouTube and Twitter, urging them to proactively inform users when they're interacted with medical misinformation. So now Adam Schiff is a doctor. You get the idea. And then this is a little flashback, if you will, to when Adam Schiff made up his own little story about President Trump. Remember? I want you to do us a favor. Remember? He did a little theater time. That's what he did. And I don't think that's okay today. This part right here is from the Gateway Pundit, which is down here. It's linked. This is the part that Q wants us to read. Head of House Intel Committee Adam Schiff demands Google, YouTube, Twitter step up their authoritative censorship and silencing. On Thursday, Representative Adam Schiff, the most dishonest and compulsive liar in Congress, sent a letter to the CEOs of Google, YouTube, and Twitter to urge them to use their authoritative powers to censor and silence voices during the coronavirus pandemic, which, by the way, I don't have. Last week, YouTube CEO told CNN the company would silence anyone who strayed from official WHO policy. Google's cool with that. In fact, the company is very proud of her censorship. Remember this in November. Democrats support this and want more censorship and silencing. Schiff sent these letters off to Google, YouTube, and Twitter, which we just saw. Q says control of the population, sheep, control of the narrative. Well, that's about all they can do at this point. If you can't beat them, ban them, right? Let's move on. Post 4016, 4 minutes after the hour of 4, was the DNC was hacked by Russia? Was the DNC was hacked by Russia? There's another was in there. CIA, Brennan, Force, Seth Rich, internal download, hand-to-hand pass, USA. Yeah, we know that this was not a hack. It wouldn't have been able to happen at that speed. It would have had to have been something like a transfer to some sort of thumb drive a la Seth Rich, right? CrowdStrike code insert. If FBI chain of command was corrupt, what other investigations were corrupted? Well, that's what we're going to find out, right? We're going to find out that FISA was just part of the cover-up. Who did they provide cover for? Are we talking about the World Health Organization? Well, that was probably one organization they provided cover for, and that's probably been going on for quite some time. Back in the Obama administration, right? We knew a lot of grants were going to the WHO, but this is likely talking about some other institutions as well. How far back did it go? And I'm wondering if Q is meaning to highlight the IT. Now, this actually comes from Qmap, so it isn't Q highlighting IT. It just gets highlighted like that. But it makes me wonder if we are talking about a particular IT, maybe an Imran Awan. Don't really know. You let me know. But we know that the DNC wasn't hacked. And we know that CrowdStrike lied about that. And we know that the person that handed over that information was likely a staffer named Seth Rich. Let's move on. Post 4017, 5 minutes after the hour of 4, Q says error was ×2 on the move. Simply saying that was not intentional. Fair enough. Let's move on. Post 4018, 24 minutes after the hour of 4, we get this sweet meme right here. In it together. Q doesn't have anything to say other than that we are in it together. Fair enough. Let's move on. Post 4019, 52 minutes after the hour 4, we get a Twitter status to Tim. Tim runs his mouth. Here's a mashup of Nancy Pelosi responding to a question about Tara Reade compared to how she handled Christine Blasey Ford. You'll know which ones are which, and it's a little bit of a montage. We're not going to play you the whole thing, but let's play you some of it.
An investigation on Justice Kavanaugh when a very similar allegation came out on him.
Well, let me just say, I respect your question, and I don't need a lecture or a speech.
We're here to show our respect for all women who have a case, have it respected, for due process, to investigate, to find the truth, not fear it.
Here's the thing. I have complete respect for the whole Me Too movement. I have 4 daughters and 1 son, and there's a lot of excitement around the idea that women will be heard and be listened to.
Post 4020, 30 minutes after the hour of 5, we get a link to The Hill. This is another classic example of the left eating their own. Hashtag fire Chris Hayes trends after MSNBC host covers Biden's sexual assault allegations. MSNBC host Chris Hayes sparked backlash from the left when he became the first primetime host on the network to cover a former aide's sexual assault allegations against presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden, with the hashtag fire Chris Hayes trending on Twitter. The all-in host welcomed New York Magazine's Rebecca Tracer to his program Wednesday night after she penned an essay titled The Biden Trap that was critical of the former vice president for not addressing Tara Reade's allegations in any interviews, thereby leaving Democratic women supporting his candidacy to answer questions about the allegations for him. Okay, so like we just said, this is just going to keep piling up on Joe Biden, and I think what will probably happen is that he will likely pick his VP candidate and then let all this stuff crush while he steps down. That way that VP candidate can kind of slide into the POTUS candidacy, kind of like some of you try to slide into my Twitter DMs, right? Yeah, no go. Anyway, they do go on to talk a little bit about Stacey Abrams. who went out and said that she believes Joe Biden. So there you go. She's already starting off on the right foot. But there you have it. Q says when they can no longer control you, they remove you. Control the narrative, control of you. The news is fake. The war is real. Yeah, and to be honest, I truly believe there are good people working at these platforms that are really frustrated because they've been told what to say, told what to do. And a lot of that's going to start kind of unraveling too as more and more people get fed up. We're going to start seeing really what team people are on. Let's move on for now. Post 4021, 46 minutes after the hour of 5, we'll get a Twitter status to John Roberts, who says, real Donald Trump says he has seen intelligence that gives him a high degree of confidence that the coronavirus originated from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which, by the way, I don't have. Though he would not go into detail, I can't say. Q says, think signal intelligence, think CIA, think double agents. China thought they eliminated all in-country assets. And it takes you to an article that we actually talked about a while back. This was from 2017, but the story happened in 2010. Killing CIA informants, China crippled U.S. spying operations. This is from the New York Times. The Chinese government systematically dismantled CIA spying operations in the country starting in 2010. Killing or imprisoning more than a dozen sources over 2 years, and crippling intelligence gathering there for years afterward. Current and former American officials described the intelligence breach as one of the worst in decades. It set off a scramble in Washington's intelligence and law enforcement agencies to contain the fallout, but investigators were bitterly divided over the cause. Some were convinced that a mole within the CIA had betrayed the United States. Others believed that the Chinese had hacked the covert system the CIA used to communicate with its foreign sources. Years later, that debate remains unresolved. And it wouldn't surprise me if there's a little bit of both going on, right? That's what happens with government. But there was no disagreement about the damage from the final weeks of 2010 through the end of 2012. According to former American officials, the Chinese killed at least a dozen of the CIA's sources. According to 3 of the officials, one was shot in front of his colleagues in the courtyard of a government building, a message to others who might have been working for the CIA. Let's skip you forward a little bit here. At a time when the CIA is trying to figure out how some of its most sensitive documents were leaked onto the internet. Keep in mind this article's from 2017, 2 months ago by WikiLeaks, and the FBI investigates possible ties between President Trump's campaign and Russia. The unsettled nature of the China investigation demonstrates the difficulty of conducting counter-espionage investigations into sophisticated spy services like those in Russia and China. And keep in mind, I keep mentioning this, that in 2015, the ICIG warned Peter Strzok himself about this kind of very thing, saying that, hey man, people are getting access to Hillary Clinton's emails. So this was going on for quite some time, and I'm sure that Hillary Clinton wasn't the only one facilitating this, of course, but that was one real classic example. But people died over this. A lot of people died over this, and we don't really know how many or how far this really reached, but we knew that it was a really big problem. And that's essentially what Q is saying here. Some things are better left untold. And then we have COV. I'm not sure if that's a reference to the COV-19 that I don't have. Maybe Covington LLC. Maybe just means cover. Did I mention that I don't have the Rona? Public truths of some events force wars. World War III prevent. Hello, Feinstein. Q. And of course, we know Dianne Feinstein, whose driver was probably one of these double agents, was very likely one of them. And I have a feeling that this is probably why President Trump met with Xi Jinping in the Forbidden City, why this was such a big deal. I think they were really talking about avoiding a war in this case, because a lot of assets were lost on both sides. I have no idea how this will end up playing out, but it does look like the Rona will be the thing to expose it. The Rona, which I don't have. Post 4023, 55 minutes after the hour of 5. That's a 5, 5, and a 5. We get a Twitter status to Ronna McDaniel. Ronna, not to be mistaken with Rona, which I don't have. Q says control. Ronna says, yesterday, a massive story broke about FBI malfeasance at the dawn of real Donald Trump's administration. How many times did the mainstream media mention it during their morning shows? CNN, Zippo. CBS, nada. ABC, zero. NBC, big fat goose egg. MSNBC, zero. Unreal. Q says control. Well, it shouldn't surprise us at this point. That's why you've got people like myself and a lot of your favorite content creators trying to do it. And of course, that's why YouTube is trying to keep us from doing it. And that's why Susan Wojcicki doesn't get cake. Let's move on. Post 4024, 59 minutes after the hour 5:59, 59. Pretty sweet. Sometimes you can't tell the public the truth. You must show them. A deeply entrenched enemy who controls the vast majority of communications is only defeated by game theory. Well, I'd imagine that we're talking about their own communications. If they control the communications, then we have to use their communications. Now, I do want to point out we've talked about a deeply entrenched enemy before in post 1964. Patriot, a little perspective. Patriots are dying to defend this great country and the freedom she provides. Children are being kidnapped, tortured, raped, and sacrificed in the name of pure evil. Stay the course. We are fighting a deeply entrenched enemy. Think Lisa Barsumian. Smile. 2018 will be glorious. And Lisa Barsumian is quite a character, right? She's a U.S. attorney. And she was also a protege of James Comey, Robert Mueller, represented Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, lots of people. Seems like she's a CIA asset. She also represented a lot of cases for the National Institutes of Health. I wonder if that's relevant. Anyway, she represented the FBI quite a number of times. I have a feeling she's probably very, very relevant. Oh, also, she is the wife of Rod Rowe. Post 4025, 29 minutes after the hour is 6, we see this little snippet from a previous Q post here talking about General Flynn targeted. Why? Well, because he knows where all the bodies are buried, and he likely knew all about that mess that was going on in China. He likely knew about how all these Chinese nationals were attaching themselves to Hillary Clinton's emails. He likely knew about the unmasking of tons of people, including half of Congress and God knows who else, right? He knew about all of it. Trump admin version 2? Well, could be. Let's take a look at this Twitter link here to Breaking 911. President Trump says he would be open to bringing General Flynn back into his administration. It looks to me like Michael Flynn will be exonerated. Check it out.
You said that Michael Flynn would come back even bigger and better. So are you going to pardon him? And if so, are you considering to bring him back into your administration?
Well, it looks to me like Michael Flynn would be exonerated based on everything I see. I'm not the judge, but I have a different type of power. But I don't know that anybody would have to use that power. I think he's exonerated everything. I've never seen anything like it. What they did, what they wrote, you see this, General. You wouldn't want this happening to you, what they did to General Flynn. And it's just disgraceful. So, you know, I guess we'll get to that maybe someday or maybe not. Hopefully we won't have to get there.
Well, would you consider bringing him back into your administration?
Well, I think he's a fine man. I think it's terrible what they did to him. It's something that nobody's asked me, but you're asking me for the first time. I would certainly consider it. Yeah, I would. I think he's a fine man. I think he's got a great family. He loves his son. I will tell you, his son was around a lot, and he loves his son, as people generally do. And they did everything possible to destroy him. And he's still breathing very strongly, but they really hurt him very badly. Very, very unfair. Kristen?
Quick follow. In what capacity? I do have a coronavirus-related question, but in what capacity would you bring him back?
Well, look. I mean, I'm not even. This is really the first time I've been asked a question, but I think he'll be fully exonerated one way or the other. And so certainly he'd be capable of coming back. He suffered greatly.
So there you have it. Where do you see the good General Flynn fitting in? Head of the NSA? Well, how about Vice President? You tell me down below. Let's move on. Post 4026, 5 minutes after the hour of 9. Q gives us the definition of painting the rose red. To frantically attempt to cover up a mistake with severe consequences. Popularized by Alice in Wonderland. I accidentally broke my mom's favorite antique vase, so I had to paint the roses red. Okay, well, all kinds of symbolism right there. If you've not watched my series so far, The Bite 1 and 2, we've got tons of symbolism with roses, Alice in Wonderland, and vases. Is that what we're talking about? I'm not so sure in this case, but it sure wouldn't surprise me if it was connected. But we get this Twitter status to James, nobody's homie Comey, comforting sign of spring in our garden. And wouldn't you know it, there's a red rose. It's like he was painting the rose red. So, is James Comey attempting to cover up a mistake? Did he break an antique vase or vase? I don't know which one it is. Call it what you want. Q says, denied. Justice will be served. So, whatever Comey's offering, looks like Q's not having. Justice will be served, even for Comey and his rose. in his vase. Or vase. Post 4027, 19 minutes after the hour of 9, we see this sweet picture of this guy. Let me get a Twitter status to Greg Kotseos, who posts a video from Deep State Exposed. Infiltration instead of invasion. And this is John. He's a brute by Menon Brennan doing a little bit of talking. Let's listen to him.
But for more than 3 decades, I have also had the tremendous fortune to travel the world. And as part of that experience, to learn about the goodness and beauty of Islam. As a college student in the 1970s, I spent a summer traveling through Indonesia, taking in the wonderful landscape, culture, and people of Java and Bali. Despite my long hair, my earring, and my obvious American appearance, I was welcomed throughout that country in a way that is a reflection of the tremendous warmth of Islamic cultures and societies. Like the president during his childhood years in Jakarta, I came to see Islam, not how it is often misrepresented, but for what it is, how it is practiced every day by well over 1 billion Muslims worldwide, a faith of peace and tolerance and great diversity. And if you permit me, or I should say, اسمح بعد إندونيسيا سافرت إلى مصر وهناك درست عربية في جامعة أمريكية في القاهرة، وهذا في سنة 1975 و 76. وسافرت إلى الأردن وفلسطين والقدس وتونس، وبعد مصر ساكن في الشرق الأوسط تقريبا 6 سنة، لكن الآن أنا عجوز. أنا كنت طالب وشباب لما درست عربية، لكن الآن نسيت أكثرية اللغة. كسلان، لسان كسلان. متأسف لكن ممكن إن شاء الله سوف أدرس عربية مرة تانية إن شاء الله. عفواً.
All right, John. Well, I spent a little time in Egypt myself, and I also traipsed through Bali and Java with earrings. And I didn't sign off on any 9/11 hijackers when I was a CIA station chief in Riyadh. I'm just saying. Infiltration instead of invasion. Yeah, the guy you're looking at right here, John Brennan, Valerie Jarrett, Imran Awan. I think you get the idea. They've been planting these knuckleheads for quite some time for a very specific reason. And it wasn't because of diversity. It was for one specific reason, the takedown of the United States of America. Let's move on. 48, 28, 29, and 30 are roughly dealing with the same idea here. 40, 28, 23 minutes after the hour 9. It is a Twitter status to Lisa Page, who says, "Good riddance, but also God help us. My mother immigrated from Iran in her 20s to forge a better life for herself. Iran is smart and strategic and all over the world. Iran isn't an irrational actor, but they have the pride of a 5,000-year-old culture. I fear they are going to hit back in a way to remind America that they are a real and independent country. I hope I'm wrong." Okay, well, that sounds like some fighting words right there, right? Is that a call to action there, Lisa Page? But it is also showing that she has some connections with Iran herself, as well as Peter Strzok, which we have talked about a great deal. That is the next post, 4029, 25 minutes after the hour of 9. And we're actually talking about a different Peter Strzok Sr., Peter P. Strzok. And I don't know if you'll be able to see how blurry that is, but he worked for the Ayatollah Khomeini, and back in the day he was working with Bell Helicopters, a lot of CIA assets there, as well as Peter Strzok's uncle. So there were quite a few Strzok's out there in Iran. You can see the connections there. 4030, we see it again with Valerie Jarrett. This comes in at 29 minutes after the hour 9, and as you can see here, it is saying that she was born in Shiraz in 1956. I have actually gone into great detail with Valerie Jarrett in my Weatherman 2 series, so if you want to know more about her her mother, Barbara Bowman, her grandfather, Robert Taylor, her uncle. She's got a lot of connections too, not just with Iran, but with a lot of communist organizations and so on and so forth. And it goes right back to the Weathermen Underground and Barack Obama. But I think the point Q is trying to make here in all these posts is these immediate connections to the country of Iran. And I'm starting to wonder if Lisa Page's words weren't fighting words. Now we're going to cruise through some of these next posts here, starting with 4031, because they're basically hammering the same point home. 36 minutes after the hour 9, we get this daily caller link. And I just want to turn your attention to this. We were talking about the Awan Brothers. The Awan Brothers, who worked as IT aides for many Democratic members of Congress, including Florida Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz, have been the focus of an investigation into security practices on Capitol Hill. The brothers were not given background checks before being given access to highly sensitive government information, and no explanations have been given as to why. And of course, they were destroying servers. They were sending some of that stuff out of country. They were basically running a chop shop, and they already had criminal background records, right? One guy was running this really sketchy used car business, and the other had been fired from McDonald's. These guys were sketchy. And even after having that pointed out, Debbie Wasserman Schultz was still fine with it, right? 4032, 38 minutes after the hour 9, this was a Politico article from 2017, and this was in regard to the release of these 7 prisoners that Obama facilitated. And this was really sketchy because some of these guys were supplying microelectronics to Iran that led to their building of surface-to-air missiles, cruise missiles, stuff like that. They were supplying all kinds of tech, hardware, and stuff. Now, some other guys had been leasing this Boeing aircraft, and they were using it for an Iranian airline that supported Hezbollah. That was another group of these guys. And then some even more. This guy, Amin Ravan, he was charged with smuggling U.S. military antennas to Hong Kong and Singapore, and that was for use in Iran. So he was setting up a network through China. Not sketchy at all. And then, of course, one of them, I will try to say his name, Sayed Abul Fasl Shahab Jamili, who had been charged with being part of a conspiracy that from 2005 to 2012 procured thousands of parts with nuclear applications for Iran via China. I think you get what's going on. 4033, 40 minutes after the hour 9, we get a link to Deep State Exposed on Twitter. With the steps I ordered last month, we are speeding up the training of ISIS forces with Sunni volunteers. And we actually talked about this video a couple of days ago. It's just a 17-second long video, but we are going to move on. I think you understand what's up. 4034, 45 minutes after the hour 9. This was a story from 2018. Republican Senator Patrick Colbeck is running for governor. A BuzzFeed article recently uncovered a presentation Colbeck gave. In it, he accuses a Democratic candidate of governor of having ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. Colbeck has offered no proof to support this claim. And this has been going on a lot in Michigan. It seems to be a very big hotbed for a Muslim Brotherhood and extreme Islam. And they clowned him back in the day about this, saying that this was basically just McCarthyism all over again. And it looks like Q is pointing out that there were a lot of people calling this out. 4035, we see it again, 50 minutes after the hour 9. And this was a video in 2013 from Mark Levin, Real Clear Politics, basically saying the same thing. The Muslim Brotherhood has infiltrated our government. It's called Barack Obama. And he goes into Valerie Jarrett and a lot of his different Muslim Brotherhood connections as well. Post 4036, 54 minutes after the hour 9, we see this same video from Methods, who had posted this back in February 25th, but I want to point your attention to the video down below where Methods says Michelle Bachmann called out the infiltration by the Muslim Brotherhood back in 2012. Yeah, and I would like to add that that's actually where they started saying that she was organizing a witch hunt. Check it out.
It appears that there has been deep penetration in the halls of our United States government by the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood has been found to be an unindicted co-conspirator on terrorism cases, and yet it appears that there are individuals who are associated with the Muslim Brotherhood who have positions, and very sensitive positions, in our Department of Justice, our Department of Homeland Security, potentially even in the National Intelligence Agency.
So there you have it. Quite a few people calling it out back in the day. It's about time people start listening. 40:37, 59 minutes after the hour 9. Q says one step at a time. That's kind of how I'm trying to handle these Q posts right here. 40:38, 9 minutes after the hour 10, we get a Fox News link to an old opinion piece by Carrie Patton. This was back in 2011 in regard to DNI James Shut Your Yapper Clapper. James Clapper is a man who served his country with magnanimous distinction. He's an intellectually brilliant leader. Such a person deserves the utmost respect and gratitude for his service to this great nation. With this said, in every person's life, there's a time to hold and a time to fold. Yeah, I think Kenny Rogers said that. Anyway, let's read the highlighted part right there. This week, the current director of national intelligence made comments degrading the true threat imposed by the Muslim Brotherhood. His comments were most likely made in an attempt to appease his masters running the White House. I think that kind of sums it up right there. Once again, Carrie Patton calling it out. Post 4039, 11 o'clock. The first link is to a YouTube page that shows you a waving American flag for 2 minutes and 55 seconds. It looks like we're putting a little bit of pride back into the American flag. The second link takes you to bands.army.mil, and it takes you to the musical score to the Color. You can go listen to it down below if you'd like. To the Color is a bugle call to render honors to the nation. It is used when no band is available to render honors. You can't have a band right now because of the Rona, which I don't have, or in ceremonies requiring honors to the nations more than once. To the Color commands all the same courtesies as the national anthem, which means you take your hat off and you stand up and you show a little respect and you recognize. You respectinize. Those are your Q posts. That's all I got for you today. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. All my links are down below. This is Sir Patrick Maggott. Until next time, stay focused.